Good afternoon. On behalf of Engineers Australia, I'm delighted to welcome you all to our Thought Leaders series, Digital Revolution in Construction. My name is Amanda and I'll be your host for today. Firstly, in keeping with our custom, Engineers Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them, their cultures, and to elders past, present, and emerging. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that today's webinar is being hosted with Engineers Australia's long-standing industry partner, Bentley Systems. Bentley Systems is an infrastructure engineering software company and provides innovative software to advance the world's infrastructure, sustaining the global economy and environment. They are the leading global provider of software solutions to engineers, architects, geospatial professionals, constructors, and owner-operators for the design, construction, and operation of infrastructure. Today, we will hear from 4 speakers, followed by a live audience Q&A, and I encourage you to send questions through to our speakers via the chat box. I'd now like to welcome our first 2 speakers, David McLaughlin and Clinton Parker. David has 9 years of experience specialising in 3D visualisation and 4D digital rehearsals for civil construction industry. David's primary focus lies in crafting high-calibre dynamic 3D visuals for engineers to communicate complex ideas, staging and methodologies using the latest 3D modelling and gaming technologies such as 3ds Max, SketchUp and Unreal Game Engine. Clinton is an accomplished project construction manager with a wealth of experience spanning over 20 years on complex infrastructure projects ranging from 6 million to 2.4 billion. Thriving in diverse and demanding environments, Clinton possesses a notable background in aviation and road sector projects that necessitate adept interface management and collaboration with multiple stakeholders to ensure program and project success. Please join me in welcoming David McLaughlin and Clinton Parker.
Thanks, Amanda, for that introduction. Today we'll be discussing the Barwon Heads Bridge project located in Marshall, Victoria, and how we successfully implemented a 4D digital rehearsal during the planning phase to communicate a complex construction methodology to all the stakeholders and discover unforeseen issues that arose. So today we'll just do a quick introduction to BMD, and then we'll just go through the Barwon Heads project and just show off some of the digital rehearsals and the timeline it took to implement that 4D digital rehearsal, how it was implemented, how we talk to stakeholders, produce videos, and all that sort of jazz. So the first slide, I'll just introduce BMD to everyone. It was founded in 1979. BMD is a national group of companies engaged in engineering, design, construction, in land development, urban development, transport infrastructure, in the resources and energy sectors. We have offices located in all capital cities across Australia, and we have branched out globally into the Philippines with Prime BMD. We've also opened an office in London in the United Kingdom. So I'll just move to the next slide. So just a quick introduction. The Barwon Heads Bridge Upgrade Project was located in Marshall, Victoria. It's a new bridge over rail, so it was a really complex methodology that we had to implement. And it was what we tried to focus on was the for the 4D digital rehearsal was the 2-weekend rail occupation blitz that happened, that started in August 28th, 2022. What I've done is also present, what I want to show is a presentation of the 4D digital rehearsals. Clint, what I've done is I've taken the 4-minute digital rehearsal that we produced and I just shrunk it down to a 45-second introduction, just so everyone can see the scope of the project. And so whenever I'm talking about backspans and girders being installed and scaffolding. Everyone's on the same page. So I'll just play this. So we're installing the main spans here, counterweights, and then we're installing the back spans as well. So, sorry, it's all sped up. Also, I'll send a link at the end for the full Vimeo, for the full video through Vimeo. What I like about this as well is through the 4D digital rehearsal we did in Synchro 4D, I was able to create a comparison between the 4D digital rehearsal and the actual construction. So I was able to get a time lapse from Glen Heston Photography, and they did a great job with that. They gave me the frame rate, what they were able to each sequence of photographs, and then I was able to match that in Synchro 4D and then create a comparison. I was quite surprised at how close, how exact we were with the 4D digital rehearsal with the actual construction. So just to recap with the Barwon Heads Bridge upgrade, I'll just show some of these images just to give you a sense of scope and scale of the project. We did 810 concrete panels for the approach ramps with this particular design. We built the abutments, the columns, the blade walls to support the bridge. And it was about 750 ton total of steel beams ranging from 27 to 55 meters long. And we transported those from Corio, I think I said that correct, to Marshall. And I think it's about a half an hour drive. Is that right, Clint?
Yeah, about 30 minutes in a car, so a little bit longer with a big transport on a truck.
Yeah, transport on trucks. So, and Clint, you can cut me off anytime and jump in if you want.
You're doing very well.
Thank you. So all up, the bridge was about 97 meters long and nearly 9 meters high. This will improve the safety and the traffic flow in that area. Okay, so I just wanted to do a bit of a time scale of how we implemented the 4D digital rehearsal and then how we presented it to the project team on site. And then we're able to do videos and show clients and major stakeholders at the end of it, and before the bridge install in August and September. So Peter Anousis, who was our general manager in Victoria, Southern region at the time, he's had a lot of experience with digital rehearsals in the United Kingdom before through previous companies. He came to me with this project. I thought it was a great project to use Synchro 4D and utilize not just what I've been doing is 3D visualizations, but adding that 4D element with the schedule and the program. So all the 3D models are linked to that 4D to that schedule in Synchro 4D, and then presented through a sequence of 15-minute activities. So it wasn't just hour-long activities. We actually went down to the 15-minute activities. So that was the beginning of June. At that time, the abutment and approach ramps were the works were ongoing. I would say it's probably 80% complete. I think, Clint.
That's correct.
At that time.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, it was about 80% complete at that stage. So when Peter Anousis contacted me, I started 3D modeling the entire environment. So I would say the only CAD and 3D data that was provided to me was a Tekla model exported as CAD, and that was just for the girders. So a designer designed the girders and the spans, and then that was about it. I was also provided 3D survey strings as well for the abutments, the headstocks, the piers, and that was about it. So to make this 4D presentation work, I had to 3D model the environment. So I probably 3D modeled 90% of the environment. So, and I had to make that exact as possible to make this work. So my workflow consisted of just 2D PDFs with some northing easting points, and from there I was able to make solids and combine that all into one program and then into Synchro 4D. The schedule was done in P6. Primavera, I think, is the program, P6.
That's correct, yes.
Yep. Okay. And the original program was done in like hourly blocks, but as we did the 4D reviews, we actually went down to those 15-minute activities. And you could see later on, we'll show how even we went down to the minute details of the bolts being installed. And yeah, so I was given probably 3 weeks to do that. Also, I was learning Synchro 4D at the same time, so it was quite a learning curve. And then at the end of June, we did a 4D presentation, an on-site visit, and a 4D presentation to everyone who was involved in the project. So I think the amount of detail that I went into it surprised most of the project engineers who were on site. Clint, I think.
That's 100% correct. We like anything, it's not something that we commonly do, though it's it has been done more common in the UK and abroad. So there was a little, I wouldn't say hesitation, but there was a little bit of reservation of the detail that would be going into. Would this look like crayon drawings from a 5-year-old child, or would it look like Avatar? And we weren't too sure where it was going to sit. And to be really fair and really upfront, it is definitely leaning towards the Avatar component. We were blown away by the level of detail and accuracy, which allowed us to actually gain the most benefit out of that those digital rehearsals, because we could do very deep dives into very specific elements, which we'll go into later. But yeah, the team was blown away by the level of detail that we could go into and model.
Yeah, because how it was presented was through Synchro 4D. I think we're just on a big screen and we're just scrolling through the timeline and showing it being built at that stage, and then it just created a discussion around certain events, which we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, that discussion, everyone's I think just to make sure everyone was on board with the project and knew what was happening. So
yes.
Yeah, so after that, it was pretty. That was a pretty successful presentation, and then from there we just did weekly reviews every Friday over Teams. I think eventually I would be given lighting design. We just refined the 4D animation even further during those weeks before the presentation and delivery to Major Roads Victoria and V-Line as well. So because we wanted to distill confidence, is that the right word? The confidence in the presentation
Yes.
to our clients.
100%.
Yeah, so I think the delivery method was through a video. So I just rendered the video and presented it to the clients and stakeholders. And there is a bit of a gap there between August and September. So I guess the planning phase was done. What happened in that month, Clint?
A lot of consultation and taking those what we'd created as our digital rehearsal and actually taking through right down to local fire brigade and ambulance emergency services on how they could actually access the site, even explaining what the site could be looking like at different phases. So if they were required, how they would get an ambulance to the site, how we would be preparing stretchers if someone needed to be evacuated. So it allowed us to actually communicate with a high degree of accuracy of what it would actually look like, because as we all know,
Mm.
technical drawings are sometimes difficult to communicate to people who
Yeah.
might not be in the infrastructure and engineering space.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just move on because we've only got a limited amount of time, which I forgot. So we'll actually discuss some of the 4D challenges that we had. So as I'm showing some of these images here, we'll just go into some of the methodology, especially the splice plates. So on the main spans, we were provided with some 2D drawings for splice plates. So they were actually attached to the main spans, and then they were swung into place and then bolted to the back spans, to the smaller girders, the smaller back spans. So yeah, so my challenge was I was given 2D hand drawn plans, and then I had to put them in the 3D. The main program I was using was SketchUp as well for everyone at home. And so the north and south back span girders were being installed concurrently. It was really important that we had the positions of the scissor lifts and EWPs. It was a very tight um, um, site, lots of moving parts, and we had to make sure that the scissor lifts could actually fit in between the girders as well. So a lot of these vehicles and scissor lifts, EWPs, they were actually BIM models from Ribbit, so they were actually to scale, and we could actually check the scale and check the measurements and if they were actually going to fit. We also had two LR 1400 cranes positioned between the abutment and the blade wall, so I had to make sure those positions were correct. The lighting setup, so it was night work, so we had to make sure the lighting was in the right spot, and then we went through the methodology of the actual splice plate being bolted and the installation order. So I've just prepared a video for this. I think I'll just play this part of it. So these are the two backspans getting installed. You can see the swinging of the splice plate and the attachment of just 4 bolts, not all the bolts. And then we've got the top plate and the bottom plate getting installed. And I can't go back on the video, unfortunately, but you could see some of the, I've also put a landing, like a landing plate onto the main girders. So when the backspan comes down, it gets plopped onto that landing plate, and the model doesn't really show up. It's just repeating there, but there's a bit of a weld around that landing plate as well. So yeah. So is that correct, Clint? I think.
Yeah, 100%. And the detail that we could go into gave us certainty around timing.
Yeah.
Literally timing down to the 15 minutes, but we also modeled it and we
Mm.
could talk through with the fitters if they thought that was realistic, and also it allowed us to communicate the sequence that the bolting had to be done, and
Yeah,
also the
that's right.
installation of the plates, because actually some of the
Mm.
plates we found out could clash and you wouldn't be able to tighten them if you
Yeah.
put them in a different order. So that's the sort of thing we would have not been able to do without this
Mm.
these rehearsals.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll just that play as well. Okay, so another issue was the concrete transfloors. Well, it wasn't really an issue. It was something that you guys had developed, or what did you say last week? You've never developed this before, like handrails on the concrete
Yeah, it
transfloors.
was. We had a quite a good idea. It's probably not necessarily you'd say an innovation or something fully new, but we hadn't
Right.
used it in this application. So though it worked really well, I guess, in someone's head, and also we could get some shop drawings drawn up. We actually we couldn't fully see how the workflow would work, and we didn't want to leave it to the night of the race because it's very hard to troubleshoot on the fly.
Mm.
So we wanted to, and that's what again the 4D animations allowed us to do, is we actually were able to model it and then see if it would work and tweak it, which we did, which was massively useful in our planning process.
Yeah, that's right. So I've also prepared another video for this. just to show the transfloors being installed. Also, we discovered a small, well, not a small issue, but an issue between the abutment and the transfloors and the spans. There was actually a gap there. So there was a bit of a safety issue there getting the crew onto those spans. So this is where we modeled, as you can see in this image here, you can see the crew and a bit of a ramp that we had to install as well. So that was discovered while we were doing the 4D rehearsals as well. I'll just, so this is, I've just taped this on OBS, I think. So this is actually Synchro. And this is the level of detail we could go into all our reviews with. So you can see it scrolling around in real time and watching the transfloors get installed. It was really important the order of the transfloors as well because of the rail shutdown. So we're able to install while I think the rail was live during these first installs during the week, and then you shut
Yes.
down the second week to install the central transfloors. But you can
Yes.
see the
Yeah.
two
We had.
teams. Yeah, sorry, mate.
I was going to say, yeah, we had some restrictions. Obviously, working around
Mm,
outside of the occupation, we were working around a live rail corridor, which meant we could install them in a certain way, but only up to a certain point, and then wait for the shutdown before we
yeah,
installed the remainder.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So actually, I'll just go back. If I can go next again. There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to show this gap because I think I zoomed in between the girder and the, yeah, so we had to build a platform there. We also modeled the cross bracing as well. There's so much more detail. Unfortunately, we're just limited for time, so we can't show everything. everything. But you can see we've just gone to that minute detail of bolts and bolts and screws, and you can see the scaffolding as well. The entry of the scaffolding onto the piers. Went to that level of detail. So, and we were able to provide this file. I didn't have Synchro control set up at this stage, which is the iModel where everyone can go onto the web and view it on the web. I actually provided the file, and our engineers could go into Synchro Open Viewer, which is exactly what you're seeing here. They just couldn't manipulate the model, but they can scrub the timeline. They can see when it's been installed. They can view it in 3D. They can take screenshots, measurements, all sorts of things. So that was really, 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 really cool. So I think we're going over time here. So I think I'll just go next. There's a number of issues with counterweights, how we were going to reduce the counterweights and just the positioning of the Freno crane, or how it's going to be positioned and how we can move that. I'll just move over to lighting designs. So a lot of the night works, I was able to implement where the lighting. I think we did find a clash with one of the lighting on the abutments, and then we just were able to move that as well. So I'll just move on to quickly. Oh yeah, I'm just showing a video quickly of the lighting design here as well, and where the transfloors were going to be positioned and ready to be installed. We have 2 cranes as well during the shutdown for the last backspans. Yeah, just a huge amount of detail, which is really cool. And you can fly through 3D. Also, I'm using a HP notebook for this project as well to view this. So it wasn't a huge computer. I was able to reduce a lot of the 3D geometry as well, but that's a whole different webinar to discuss the 4D implementation. And yeah, so some of the 3D programs I used: SketchUp, 3ds Max, AgTech, which is our earthwork quantities program, but I find it a very fast string modeling program. Most of the models were done in SketchUp though, and then imported into Synchro. And yeah, just some of the 4D challenges: 2D PDF plans, modeled it from scratch, and that's just a picture of just how I set up all the models in SketchUp. And yeah, I think we're a little over time, but I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, David and Clinton, for your input. I'd now like to welcome our third speaker, Paul King. Paul is the Sector Director for Construction at Bentley Systems, responsible for leading the Global Construction Cell's enablement team, supporting project delivery organisations with their digital transformation and helping them to create tailored strategies focused on business value and integrating them into everyday operations. Paul supported major projects such as the London 2012 Olympics, Mazda City in Abu Dhabi, and Crossrail in the UK. Please welcome Paul King.
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name's Paul King, and I work in the construction team at Bentley Systems. And I'm delighted to be speaking to you today, and I'm pleased that so many of you want to learn about using technology to deliver better construction projects. We really are at a turning point now in the industry where we can choose to embrace the technology revolution that's underway. And you'll see in this webinar how technology is helping firms to win projects, deliver them more efficiently, and improve their profitability. And if you've heard about the cost blowouts on projects like Snowy Hydro or Sydney Metro, you'll understand why that's important. And there are plenty of statistics that describe the challenges in construction. This one sums it up for me. 35% of global construction spend is burned up in disputes. It means there's so much wasted effort that for every 3 projects we build, we should actually be building 4. Or it's buy 3, get 1 free. So there's plenty of opportunity to improve. But there are also plenty of challenges stopping construction projects doing better. So for example, within organizations, it can be hard to manage and use the vast amount of data that's available. It's difficult to scale best practice across the organization. It's also hard to attract and retain the best people and then use them to best effect on projects. Outside organizations, there are things that amplify internal problems. Things like complex projects and the interconnected teams that have to deliver them. And value chains are fragmented and projects make extensive use of subcontracting. And none of these things make projects any easier. And they were around long before the COVID pandemic. COVID just made them worse. But COVID's accelerated the adoption of new technology. And it means that construction firms have started to change how they operate. And building any type of asset is complicated, as you can see when you look at what's needed to deliver a new railway project. We don't just design the railway and then build it. Software plays a key role in planning, designing, analysing, constructing, and then managing the asset. And the activities shown here are complicated enough on their own, and then often be performed by different organisations in different countries using different software. The construction team on site then has to take all this data and information and use it to deliver the railway on time and within budget. And that budget's usually set by a competitive tender process, so every dollar makes a difference. And with all that complexity going on, it reminds me of this quote from Barack Obama in the GFC. So this will be really interesting stuff if I wasn't in the middle of it. And it's how construction managers can feel when somebody rocks up partway through their project and suggests trying some new technology. Now that's one of the reasons we developed Synchro. It's Bentley's digital construction solution. It's designed to help construction companies to win better projects, deliver them efficiently and safely, and improve their profitability. It's an integrated digital environment, which means it provides all the tools and services needed to deliver a project, whether you're based in the office, on site, or a mix of both. It's also agnostic when it comes to working with data from other vendors. And that's important because construction projects work with models and drawings from multiple design applications, and construction teams don't want to waste time worrying about file formats. Synchro works in the field, in the cloud, and in context, and it's a modular solution that means you only have to use what you need. It also means you get the right information at the right time, wherever you are, on your preferred device. And Synchro also supports and enables the construction digital twin. But digital twins are not something of case of all or nothing. They can be implemented in a phased way to suit what you need on your project. And there's quite a bit of hype around them. I'll give you my perspective on how they apply to construction. So a digital twin starts with a representation of an asset, process, or system. In construction, that's typically the 3D model or the BIM data. that digital representation must be continually synchronized to keep it up to date and in context. And at its simplest level, it might mean ensuring that you've got the latest approved design file whenever it changes. But you also need to track who changed it, status, its approved use, and so on. Once you have that digital representation and it's continually synchronized, then you can exploit all that content for data-driven workflows. And that's when digital twins reap big rewards. So on a construction project, creating a digital representation is about creating design information. Projects already need to produce good quality design information regardless of whether they're implementing a digital twin. Most design teams will be using the latest BIM tools and other software to create a set of information that's correct, complete, and consistent. And increasingly, they'll also be using best practice for collaborating on that information, typically ISO 19650. And for some teams, this might be as far as they go towards a digital twin, but doing it consistently will still generate benefits. Next, all that digital stuff has to be continually synchronized from different sources to represent the status, the condition, and its position. And when that's done in a connected data environment, there's a lot more data than just models and drawings. And managing this stuff ensures that it's aligned, accountable, and accessible. Data alignment means that you can take coordinated design information from different software tools and reuse it. Data accountability means you know who created the information and what it can be used for. And data accessibility means you can get the information you need using your preferred device wherever you are. And you can also capture and contribute information in the same way. The final step in the digital twin uses the data for construction workflows. And this is the digital twin on a page. On the left-hand side, you've got inputs like design data, drawings and models, pre-construction information, and feeds coming in from the field. In the middle, you've got the connected data environment that ensures that all the data is aligned, accountable, and accessible. On the right-hand side, the data is used for workflows like estimating, 4D planning, scheduling, and progress reporting. And the result is a better project and a jump in productivity. So construction is hard, but technology can make things easier for everyone involved in delivering projects. And that's a good point to hand over to David and Clinton from BMD. And they'll describe how BMD is using technology to improve their construction projects.
Thank you, Paul, for your presentation. I'd now like to welcome our fourth and final speaker, Jonathan Cunningham. Jonathan is an exceptional product management professional with over 20 years of progressive expertise, focused on product strategy, evaluating financial performance, and marketing. Jonathan is highly skilled in all aspects of the product management lifecycle, showcasing his ability to uncover market problems, drive product requirements through build, measure, learn, and customer feedback loop, develop and present business cases, and implement new products and features using agile development methodologies. Please welcome Jonathan Cunningham.
Hey, thanks, Amanda, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. So this is the project management 5D to 2D web collaboration workflow we'll be going over throughout this webinar. I will show you from the authoring tool from the field, so basically from the office, where the engineers and design staff work, all the way to the field for construction execution. We'll be tracking that progress using our Synchro tools. So the design model is created through the authoring tools, and the project schedule is created within an authoring application such as P6. It could be in this case. We move to Synchro Modeler. We take our design model and then turn it into a constructible model for construction field execution. The design model is imported into Synchro Modeler. This allows us for various advantages, from quantity takeoff to splitting those modeling elements and components into more constructible field-related sizes. It could be a bridge, it could be a tunnel, or it could be a piece of pipe. Sometimes design doesn't always meet the way it's constructed in the field. Synchro 40 Pro is next. We take those newly constructed components that were made in the constructible model. We bring that over to Synchro 40 Pro, and it allows us to sequence those new constructible model components. So bring it into 40 Pro, bring your schedule in, and get those multiple staged, sequenced 40 elements within Synchro 40 Pro. Next portion of it is Synchro Control. So current model and schedule, we bring that into Synchro Control for the constructible model and that detailed schedule. We made it available to the team in control for collaboration, communication. Verified information on site is synchronized to the field. The reason we do that, so we have that full degree of transparency of how the project's going to be executed on in a specific sequence. Based on how we've laid that out in the initial project initiation phase. Synchro Perform and Synchro Field. Field users can view that constructible model and schedule and report on the actual progress in real time, so that model-based statusing, as well as within Synchro Perform, you can do that progressing at the activity level and task level based on quantity unit of measurements and cost allocation based on that activity. At real-time statusing reporting using the 4D model as well as Synchro Perform gives that live update and progress from the field to the office. The team in the construction office will review that progress that has been submitted by the field. Is it okay? In this case, it would be yes. In another case, it possibly is not okay, and they will send it back to Synchro 40 Pro to be sequenced based on the optimized construction time and cost to manage risks within the project itself. If it's not okay further, it's sent back to Synchro Modeler. Since this is all cloud connected, those notifications are done internally within the system, allowing for those constructible elements to be adjusted for feedback from the site, essentially. Once that feedback has been made, do we actually need a design change if it can't be adjusted in Synchro Modeler? And a design change is initiated, and then feedback from the instruction of site how potentially that design could be changed to more optimized construction for the project itself. So starting in the administration, the iModel Manager, this is where we manage our iModels into the federated iModel for that 40 as well as your project iModels. You can see within the screen here, this would be your project model itself, and then a specific task for myself on the bottom is shown here. This is the home page. We will review some of the home page information shortly in the rest of the presentation. We're going to go into the Documents tab where essentially we're starting working with the design file. In this case, we have a connection to ProjectWise where we can view that ProjectWise design document in Synchro as well as ProjectWise Explorer that you see here. So opening up that native design application in Open Roads Designer, so the authoring application as we spoke about earlier. So we can see we got two different views within the design screen. We're going to go into our saved view within the project. These saved views are communicated across the whole platform itself. So you can view what's in Open Roads Designer to what's in Synchro and what's in ProjectWise because it's a federated, connected iModel within the platform itself. In this case, we're going to be managing an issue across the platform. So an RFI in this case, we're going to select the one that's already created. You see some details, attachments, some documents, some comments, audit trail, and related information. So we do have an existing markup. We can download that file and see that existing markup that came from the field. And so we've got a note, bridge footing and storm sewer location, request for information on that, and check for any existing documents. We can link documents from our ProjectWise folder or our share within our project itself, or the design of the ProjectWise DI. We can view the comments. Those comments will be translated across the whole platform itself. So comment that's posted in OpenRoads Designer or ProjectWise will be communicated in the SyncroPort platform as well. You have an audit trail, so you can see different audits along the way, from raised to open to status to specific markups or images taken, and then it was from a related issue that was originally created and escalated into an RFI. We're going to select the specific person who it's assigned to on the project. We're going to share it with a utility role. We're going to give a comment because we're moving it from a specific state from assigned to in review. In this case, we're going to give a comment to Carrie about the storm sewer and a conflict, and then we're going to submit it for review. You can see that's been successfully saved. So back to our Syncro view. Syncro, we're showing that same form, that same RFI that was created. So you can see that the new assignee, Carrie, has been assigned to it. It's in review. You can see the markups. You can see the new comments that were made by Dan. And then the audit trail information is also there that you saw in OpenRoads Designer. So right now we're going to go to SyncroModeler. That's our quantify quantity takeoff tool, where you can assign cost codes and do quantity takeoff. First, I'm going to show is design change management, where you can compare two different versions from one to the other. And the reason for that would be if you're making modeling splits from one version to the next, that you want to be able to compare how those changes have affected in the new design model itself. So we're loading the model itself. So you can see we've got 3 different color statuses: new, modified, review, and then you can toggle that on and on, or toggle it on based on only the assigned and sliced elements that were affected by that design change itself. You can mark it as review the quantities and properties, or remove that specific element slice if it has been associated to that component itself. In this case, there's no assignments. We do have some properties for that tapered cap itself. You can toggle on and off, show only change properties within this view, and then mark it as reviewed itself. You can see that check mark, that one is specifically reviewed, or uncheck it as that was not reviewed to the system itself. That version compare button can be hit again. You can see the current version and the target version that's being compared within the project. So next we're going to review being able to do these quantity takeoffs in SyncroModeler, which we call slicing by edge. So we're going to review those properties. We'll be going throughout this to show that as you slice an element to make it more compatible for that construction sequencing, it can be done in different ways: by offset, by horizontal, vertical, In this case, we'll show you a slicing by edge. So we're going to select that barrier, and then we can scroll down that edge of that barrier and then slice it by the edge itself. We can either key in that distance, we can do a multiple slice or a single slice, and key that information if you have a specific distance split you have on that specific section. You can see here we've done multiple slices, 7 in total. So if you have an overall measurement, it will equally divide those by that amount, or you can start that split in the other direction by a reverse start point itself. So you can see the new split, the new volume sliced on that edge of that, and you can see the actual parent to compare the two. You can see that we've got a slice where it was originally a whole piece itself. So again, we can start that split again on the new edge based on that new selection. In this case, we're going to slice it multiple times, where before it was done in a singular fashion. So showing those new edges have been sliced based on those new quantities that we selected within the quantity takeoff. So you can compare the original versus the new version based on for sequencing. You can see that the original has the full portion of that barrier, while the new version is split multiple times. The last thing to do essentially would be to sync it back to the cloud and allow for that connectivity to be shared throughout everybody's iModel on the project. So we're going to do a cost code assignment. The cost code assignment essentially allows you to assign cost codes per modeling element, and those are based on a formula for quantifiable quantity takeoff. So first we went through breaking those models elements into smaller manageable components. Now it's time to assign those quantifiable quantities so we can assign a cost to them. So in this case, we've got a work step, a summary, we get the actual quantity that's being taken off. We can take that measurement and we can change and modify those units as we see fit within the application, or you could do that in the bulk import when you first set up those cost codes within the project. So in this project, we can see that we have a work area detailed of the surface area and a new volume based on the split. I showed that comparison before. Now we're moving Synchro 40 Pro to sequence those model elements in the project itself. So we move to that next stage where we can see those elements that have been split by location and break out for the project itself. You can see the work area detailing for EA, and that's that new bridge split that we put in there, that new surface area. We have a new work breakdown modeling tree, and those are based on splits that have been done in the model that will show up in Synchro 40 Pro for further sequencing within the project itself. So Synchro is highly interoperable, from different scheduling formats you can import within the Synchro 40 Pro. P6 is typically the norm, but we do have a full CPM engine backing Synchro, so it can be done either through the database, full connection, or an import of a P6 XML file. So importing, exporting, we do have an option to import and export different file types. That gives that cloud connected connectivity within the project and get that specific data into the project. So next I'm going to show connecting through Synchro Control. So that cloud connected connectivity, we're going to connect to the project itself, connect, and that would give you that synchronization between the project and allowing for multiple users to be working in the system at the same time. So here I'm showing our resource types. So that could be material, equipment, a human, or a location. And those resources are coupled to the schedule, which allows us to do that 4D sequencing in the project itself. So resources plus 3D model plus schedule equals 4D sequence model, which I'm showing the playback of now. So an example is the bridge. You can see those the bridge deck come in after the structural piles going, and the barrier comes in, and then you can see various stages being completed based on the sequencing of the model. So project baseline. So you can do baselines in Synchro 4D Pro. So comparing those two different versions of the project. So could be that a key piece of equipment has come late. So you want to compare those two different versions of, all right, if in this case this bridge, if that key piece of equipment comes late, how is that going to affect our overall scope, schedule, and cost of the project itself? So you can see the difference between the two views. One is slightly lagging behind, and again, that could be done on any resource associated to any activity and task within the project. Kind of give those different scenarios that you will potentially have on your project. Showing that baseline. So this is our cost section. So various associated costs can be displayed in the Gantt display. You can see actual direct costs, and that can be moved along our earned value analysis graph, which kind of illustrates earned value over time. So PV, planned value, earned value, actual cost, and baseline costs. Right now I'm showing 3 filters. So in this case, we've got different 3D filters that you can filter your project on, top of bridge deck, equipment, and essentially it allows for the flexibility to customize your display and planning options to suit your project needs. Then I'm showing, again, those 3 filters. This is based on resource statusing. Our resource statusing allows you to essentially status any resource on the project. So resource status of concrete, steel, and colorize those into multiple states. Those states could be changed essentially by an outside source connecting to the API to toggle those specific elements into different states. Right now I'm showing Synchro 4D forms, so allowing for that connectivity and collaboration through the project. You'll see these forms in a timeline based on the model location. So all forms available in Synchro Control will be available in Synchro 4D Pro. So that RFI that we viewed before, that is there in the system and viewable within Synchro 4D Pro for connectivity and collaboration. So same files, same markup, same attachments, same comments, same audit trail, all available in all locations. So we're communicating and collaborating within the project itself. It gives you that better overview. So right now I'm showing a timeliner. Essentially, we have the option to create an animation, and you can do a detailed iRay rendering. And that could be done for your whole video. That's essentially built into the product, no extra cost. It gives that stakeholder review and assignment within the project itself. Synchro Control homepage. So manage communication effectively. You can see I'm pulling the project drop down. So from multiple projects, you see that there. Project information with some weather information at top. My recent activity, my work, some quick grab forms that you can create, the iModel carousel, and the summary KPIs of itself. Getting into that same 40 schedule that we emphasized why we're building it in Synchro Modeler to Synchro 40 Pro, authoring it, to now viewing it for connectivity and collaboration. I like to think of Synchro Control as the heart of Synchro, essentially, where that collaboration execution starts. That same 4D authored schedule can be played back within the web, the field. And we'll show the field here shortly. So those same columns and bridge deck appears, steel coming in, with the lampposts and concrete being poured on specific sections, can be viewed within that 4D schedule tab and window. You can also focus on a specific time. So I've focused on the month of February here to get a view of, specifically what's happening in that month. You can see it in the schedule. You can also filter and search based on criteria. So I'm going to key in some information on the south, and that would be what it's found, south information. You can also select on a specific activity, same as you would see in Synchro 40 Pro, get that general information, that progress, the durations, start dates, finish dates, constraints, and physical quantities if they have been so assigned within Synchro 40 Pro. That same schedule with all its milestones essentially built into that web-based view for viewing and collaboration purposes. And that's where you can be able to submit a specific form, whether it's an issue, an RFI, against those schedule components. So I'm selecting a status of a specific component. These are those resource statuses we talked about. You can view those within the web. So I selected the deck. It's in a specific state of curing. We also have the ability to bring in reality models. So I'm showing the difference between a cutoff view between the reality model and the plan model, and then essentially playing that back in that web view based on the reality model you've selected. And that's all connected through ProjectWise Context Share service within Bentley. So giving that another layer of rich, scheduling information, actual versus planned, to see if you're actually on track on your project itself. More collaboration, communication, the full scope of what's actually happening. So Bentley Civil tools are available in the field and the web. You can see I'm selecting a specific profile if it's available on the project. That profile will come up in the bottom view, and you can scan from left to right. We do have different types of tools: the civil tools, the profile, perpendicular cross-section, 2-point, station offset. We can also select civil quantities, table angle, and then we also have a drive mode, which is a new functionality that just came out shortly. I'm going to show you how to grab a civil quantity here. All these panes are resizable within the web type view. So when you save and come back, these panes will be up. So these are quantity reports by alignment. I'm going to run this specific report. We do have a few options: zoom to, delete, cut, delete, and then rename. Let's view that report. That report comes up in the left pane here, and then we can also open an additional window to view that quantity information by alignment. Quite a bit of information there. And we can also export it and download that report through Excel. It gives that information in a kind of a spreadsheet layout, organized to how you see it. We're going to get into the My Work tab. So as it states, My Work. I am a specific persona-based user within the system. I have work assigned to me. In this case, it's a sample inspection. You can see the PDF plan set on the map itself. That PDF plan set will show the inspection assigned to how many days it's overdue. We also have different layer options. So we can bring up the satellite view and toggle that on and off depending on your needs. You can set the opacity. We also have the PDF plan set. And we will get into this a little bit later, but you can see different levels of the PDF plan set for this project. The project boundary is the orange boundary that's set initially when the project started, and specific forms. And we also have a weather option in terms of wind speed and doing that associated planning within the project to get a better overview. We do have 4 different types of views: table, calendar, map, and model. Within the table view shows the table. Filterable calendar view shows that calendar type view. The map shows the map geolocated, and then the model type view for that specific model within the project. So you can toggle between your different models in the top right corner. In this case, this is the specific model we've been using, and then you can have a specific save default view within the project. You can see that inspection that's on the bridge deck, and the specific group being called out for my named user. So you want to show that RFI again that we've been talking about for the sewer. And we'll zoom in. We've got 3 that are still outstanding. Go to the specific one. So it's 273 days overdue. But that just basically gives you that how many days potentially it could be overdue. So we see that geolocated map location, longitude, latitude, as well as that modeling base location that's been assigned to within the project. So we can manipulate the map to see where it's placed. This also gives you the flexibility to zoom in, interrogate, view that information, view the audit trail, see what it was escalated from, give that description if needed to move further ahead on that review process of that model. So all our forms and within the model type viewer, the model viewer within Synchro Control has a timeline functionality. So time is quite important to us and our users, we believe. When did that RFI happen? Did it happen at the beginning of the project, at the end of the project, and giving that kind of detailed type of view. This is the documents section where you can show different documents within that documents tab. This is our connection to ProjectWise. We have multiple types of options to open it in ProjectWise Explorer, get the link, create the rendition, check it out, and that is the view that I'm showing here. Essentially gives that greater degree of flexibilities that users that have that connection to ProjectWise and have that full ProjectWise essential workflow in the system itself. This is the PDF plan set. You did see that briefly. I showed it before. So this is the administration type view. You can see all the plan sets, in a table type view. Open model, edit the details, download it, review the revision, see if there's any issues and comments. You can see that little red flag on the legend. I can actually open them in the map. You can see them, load up here. From that map view, you can toggle that on, view it again, and then essentially turn them on and off based on their opacity, depending on if you're in the satellite view, or go to that specific revision and sheet within the model. So rotating the map, toggle the satellite view on and off, see that issue, and then go to that specific issue if need be to see what is going on with that specific sheet in the plan set itself. Give you that functionality to essentially manage those within the project. So I'm going to view this on a single sheet, so we can do that PDF markup directly in Synchro. So we can see the sheet information, as well as if this did have a different revision on it, we'd be able to compare the 2 sheets based on the changes. So we can view it, we can annotate it, we can add specific shapes for the markup functionality. I can insert an object in there as well as measure. The little flag shows the issue if there is one on that specific drawing. Getting into the dashboard section, we can view our dashboards. So all information that's aggregated through our forms is available within that dashboard. It's categorized as construction office, construction field, as well as inspections, and gives that quick stats KPIs for that viewing and aggregating purpose to view your information in that consolidated view of the project. This can be exported out in an Excel and PDF format, so users can use it in different formats. You can also see we have a Power BI dashboard available. And we can bring in Power BI dashboards. In this case, an example would be our Synchro 40 Pro sample schedule project that comes with the software. As an example, we can manipulate the dashboard based on the information that's actually coming from the field that's been progressed, based on date and time, as well as our users can modify this dashboard if they see the need to get more information, less information, or essentially design their own and bring it into Synchro Control as kind of the CDE within their project itself. So here I'm showing the multiple project for Insight. This is a way you could manage your programs and portfolios. You could essentially have a singular control site with dashboard information, kind of seeing those high-level views, aggregating all that previous information that I've showed within the project, but on a program and portfolio level. Synchro Perform allows for effective project management, addressing several key components, including earned value management and performance management, resource management, subcontractor dockets, and event management. Project management managers can use these tools and strategies to ensure that their team stays on track and meets all project goals and objectives. Within the Synchro Perform homepage, you can see our project dropdown, as well as the project tiles that get you to the specific location within the project to either progress or manage your resources. You have a status metrics at the top of the homepage, from activities to events to labor timesheets to dockets and invoices. Our timeline on the right-hand side, we have a daily summary head count, labor by daily summary hours, my activities specific user, and the events for the project. Within the Work Inspector page, we have all our structured data from our schedule that would have come over from a P6 schedule that we would have consumed in Synchro 40 Pro, as well as Synchro Perform. We can scroll to the right here and we can see the other structured information that would have came in from original budgets to revised to actual labor that's been completed so far on that specific activity and other costing information in terms of the activity itself. We're going to click on one of these activities, runway, clear, and grub at E&C, and explore the activity on the web itself. So within the activity, we do have several tabs: related events, progress, usage summary, and detailed reports. There's some owner information, some subcontractor, who would it be shared with, some comment information where you can comment on specific activities in the timeline to show events, activities within this activity itself. We have some progress information, earned value method and quantity of measurement, some cost allocation data here as well. some categories, some current plan dates, revised plan dates, and then our original plan dates brought into the schedule. We have the earned value analysis. All these numbers add up to our cost performance index as well as our schedule performance index on that specific activity. Then we have a summary of costs associated to the specific activity. So we're going to do some progress here. Enter progress from the web. You can see all the progress has been entered over time. We're going to enter our quantity delta value. This will update those other existing absolute fields. You can see all the entries over time here. The usage summary page, total track cost associated with this activity, and whether it's a resource type, equipment type, or other usage, giving those rate codes, usage quantities, and then a cost amount per line item in a table format. All searchable, all filterable. So the detailed report shows all the detailed information on the project or the activity itself. This one's quite lengthy, but it does show everything that you would need to see that's associated to this activity, from events to tasks to cost allocation and resource summary. And this is helpful when you're really trying to break down the numbers and what's happening in that specific activity. So the related events, in this case, it's a YYC event. This one's closed in this case. But events are anything that are unplanned occurrences on a project and that can affect your scope, schedule, and cost. These are associated with the activities. They look very similar to the activity itself, giving cost allocation and details, and essentially will affect the overall scope and schedule of the actual activity itself. It's good to track them, whether they're non-related to cost, but just in general. These are templated reports. Those can be run on a daily, weekly basis, all kind of part of the system itself. Dive into those specific reports at specific times in the day, get those reports, submit them, and essentially get them signed off to benchmark when it was run on the specific part of the day to get that detailed information in the project. These are our dashboards. So example of the labor progress, shows that revised scheduled performance index cost. This is our analytics page, so that Power BI reports that are part of the project as well. You can bring them into the system and concatenate the information how you would like to see it. If you need more flexibility in your reporting, and really drill down to specific disciplines that may be having trouble or not meeting their cost allocation on the project. This is Synco Perform mobile application, so I'm just going to quickly go through the example of the mobile app, iOS or Android. I'm capable. We do have activities, events, progress, times and usage, dockets, all what you saw on the web, but in a mobile format. I'm going to search through that activity list, find that same activity we saw before. We're going to have a look at the same information you saw from the web, but in the mobile format. There's a page list, start dates, finish dates, related events. We can see the overall quantity and past entries on this activity itself, and when those specific comments were made on that specific activity. We're going to get some progress entry. We can see the totals currently and percentage it's at. Just like the web, we can enter a value, either do the start change, end change, and then submit into the system. You can see the overall entries again within the system itself have been entered over time, all on the mobile. You can now see the sync was complete based on that event. I'm showing this event based on the activity we talked about before. The same information available in the mobile, so you can have that data on the go and not needing to come back to the office and go on the web page itself. So all same mobile format, but in your pocket and ready to go. So Synchro Field, it's our mobile app for Synchro. So I'll be here right now. I'm showing the home page, which shows some weather information, and then my specific work. Have an issue, weather delay, and a bridge steel inspection that's due today. You can see other my work and quick create tabs, as well as the documents and more tab to enter the model itself. I'm going to open up the model here. So as you've seen before, that same 4D aspect you saw in Synchro 4D Pro and Synchro Control for communication collaboration is seen in the mobile format. Same civil tools would be available in the field as well. I'm going to zoom into the model here. Then you have that same sequenced playback of events that was created in Synchro 4D Pro, but can be viewed in the mobile format itself. We have different types of save views that were created in the web and shared within the project itself. And then you can play back that same 4D sequence in those same views, save views within the mobile itself. Rolling back the sequence to see different aspects of it for installation, whether you want to put an issue, an RFI in. It really depends on what type of forms that you have in your project. So we're going to see how an issue is created, very similar to what we saw before with an RFI, but this would be the issue that was created against that storm sewer pipe. You can see we're going to assign it to a specific role. Give it a due date. You have the map, the model location, as well as the other functionality of photos or documents that are within that mobile application. I can see comments. We're going to post a comment from the field itself. And then going back to the home page to see that actual overall sync within the project itself.
It's now your turn to get involved as always. Please ask our speakers questions via the chat box and who your question is directed to. And thank you to everybody who sent through questions whilst registering. I might start with you, David, and we've had a question that's come in from Michael. And Michael's watching from Queensland. Good afternoon. Asking you, David, how can AI be used by construction companies? David.
Yeah, thank you. I think Josh also asked a very similar question in the live chat about AI. Yeah, I definitely see AI getting rid of a lot of repetitive tasks. Currently, I'm using AI to create simple coding scripts. For example, I had ChatGPT write me a 3ds Max script to export some CAD string vertices as coordinates and height values to an Excel document, and then I could use that in the Unreal Game Engine or another survey program or something like that. So I'm currently using that at the moment. So yeah, I just see it eliminating those repetitive tasks at the moment. Creating 3D models, I'm not too sure. I would love for AI to just get some 2D input, those 2D plans, and create 3D solid objects. That would be great.
Thank you for that. And talking about 3D models, we've had a question come in from Stella, and Stella's in WA. And Clinton, you might answer this, and then maybe David, you could jump in. But the question from Stella is, in terms of percentage, how many infrastructure projects produce 3D models during the design, development stage, construction stage? Clinton.
Thank you very much for the question there, Stella. Well, during the construction, through the design phase, many design houses will utilize 3D modeling in the creation of their designs. So that's fairly well commonplace for probably quite a few years now. But generally speaking, those 3D designs are only passed on to the contractors for information only. And we then, if those designs are provided, we then utilize them where we can in the creation of our own internal 3D models, which we then upload various parts of that model into our GPS controlled machines on site.
Thank you. Clinton, David, do you have a view?
Thanks, Stella. It depends. In my experience during the tender and bidding phase, I would only ever get 3D design survey as CAD strings. However, there are some projects that will have those 3D solid objects. Wastewater infrastructure projects like the ones we're doing now, Richmond Water and Melbourne Water projects. They come really highly detailed models, 3D, like down to the bolts. So probably out of the last 15 projects I've worked on as 3D visualizations, probably only 2 of them had sufficient 3D models. So but that was during the tender and bidding phase. I think during projects, you'd have designers, unless you actually specifically request it, you'd have to have some sort of federated models with those projects. That's so probably about 10%, I would say, if we had to put a percentage on it. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Clinton, a question's come in asking you, Clinton, what is a typical procedure to adapt to schedule plan in these sophisticated simulations? Although meant to be adhered to, outside situations will require change. Clinton.
Yeah, so it's quite a lot involved in that question. I don't think having a 4D model will stop people from wanting to change the plan. However, there are a lot of rigorous protocols we have in place on sites to ensure that if changes are made, they're made in consideration of all aspects, and many were driven by this through client requirements and also through our safety. So we just can't willy-nilly go out there and shift a crane from one side to the other, because we'd have to go through many checks and balances for that to happen. What the 4D modeling does do is it actually gives us a degree of confidence that the plan that we came up with actually could work, to avoid those potential on the fly or shoot from the hip decisions that may have been more prevalent in the industry maybe many years ago. But in this day and age, you just can't make those sort of same decisions without taking into a wider context of how that decision's been made.
Thank you for that. Questions come in from Joshua. Good afternoon to you, asking you, David. Currently in my workflow, I use AI to create simple coding scripts to automate repetitive tasks. For example, I had ChatGPT write a 3ds Max script to export CAD string vertices as coordinates and heights values to an Excel document. So, sorry, he's asking, how do you see generative AI being used as a tool in this
Yeah,
process in the future?
I answered that before with the AI question. So that's what I see it being used for repetitive tasks. Yeah, and just eliminating those tasks. And hopefully it'll create those 3D models if you ask it the right questions. Yeah.
And I'll just stay with you, David, for now, because we've had
Yep.
a question directed to both you and Clinton asking, do you see this becoming required now for all company large projects in Australia? David.
Did you want to answer, Clinton? Or
I can start there.
yeah,
I
sure.
think both Dave and I would be very high advocates for the use of this software. But again, it really comes down to the risk profile of the project and the value that it can create. So in our instance, this was extremely useful to demonstrate our ability to deliver on essentially what we had promised. So in high risk and high stake environment, I can definitely see the advantage of this being a very powerful tool. But again, it just comes down to balancing that risk profile.
Thank
So
you.
that's,
Yeah,
you got
I
anything
think it
to add there,
depends on.
Dave?
Yeah, I just think it just depends on the project, because as long as you have the 3D models, you can add them into Synchro, you can add them to your schedule. But I just find the very large projects that I've seen that are over $100 million, especially the wastewater projects, they require those nuts and bolts, like the real specific values. And um, so I could see the cost benefit showing a 4D simulation of them getting built. But yeah, I think it just depends on the project.
Thank you for that. And a question that's come in for both again for David and Clinton, asking what was the overall cost of something like this to the project, and what have been the cost and time savings benefited? I don't want to. Clinton, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. So first, disclosure to not to disappoint. We won't be able to talk about the financial nature of the actual costs of our equipment on site and also the cost to run a shutdown just because of the financial sensitivity of it. However, what we can probably talk about is, it's common knowledge across the industry that a rail disruption for both freight and commuter trains has significant implications on that network and has large costs associated with it. Equally, it's fairly well common knowledge that when you're running a 24/7 operation with large cranes and pieces of equipment, that the costs are high. And the question of could we run over time? The answer is no. We have to give great undertakings and great promises to our clients that we'll actually deliver our work within the timeframes permitted, which is the rail occupation. If we run over, there are penalties that are applied, which are also significant financially. There's also reputational impacts, and not to withstand the cost component, there's also a massive disruption to the communities that we're working around. So to run over time is not an acceptable outcome on any of the metrics that you may measure a project on, and time and cost is only two of those. So the 4D modeling, again, just reiterating our points earlier, just gave us a high degree of confidence around what we were doing and the timelines that we were looking to adhere to. And that allowed us to communicate that through our construction teams actually doing the works, and then able to take that information and present it to our clients. And that synergy is not often given, that someone's actually looked at it and said, yeah, I believe I can tighten a bolt in that timeline. And yes, this is how long it's going to take me to lift the scissor lift from the ground level to up to that height. And a lot of times that's not properly understood. And that done repetitively 1,000 times over an operation, if you're only 30 seconds out, you can see how that time can creep. The feedback we had from the rail authorities was we were one of the few occupations that was travelling, as we said, on time and slightly bettering our times through the occupation. So that was a real credit to the team and the detail that we went into.
Thank you for that, Quinton. And we've had a question talking about 4D from Steve. Good afternoon. Asking you, David, could you be also modelling in 4D off-site construction at prefabrication sites, deliveries, etc.? So the animation shows whole supply chain and off-site, on-site connection criticalities. David.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for the question. Sure. I can't see why not. As long as you've got the 3D models and you can link them to your schedule, I can't see why not. I think you just got to keep in mind, unlike a building construction project where you're dealing with vertical animation or a vertical schedule where you see it getting built from bottom to top, you're dealing with a wide space of area. So you're dealing horizontal. So dealing with bridges, abutments, that's fine. But if you're fabricating something off-site, it depends how far it is off-site. So if it's 100 k's away from the site, from the actual construction site, you'd have to. I'm not too sure. I think maybe you could create a new project and do smaller scheduling within that. But maybe it'll all fit in the same model in the same project. It just depends. Yeah. But I can't see why not. As long as you've got the 3D models, you should be fine.
Thank you for that. And as always, we're running out of time, and we talked a lot about this afternoon in digital revolution in construction. And I just want to bring Paul into the discussion to just talk a little bit about, just to close, where do you see the areas, the trends, and the key drivers of rapid change in this field? Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. It's interesting because things are really changing quite rapidly at the moment. We've seen a real shift in the industry really during and then after COVID towards digitization. So I think construction teams, designers, clients recognize the value of technology in optimizing how they work, streamlining their operations, and using tools like Synchro. And again, you've seen BMD with a great example today of how that technology can benefit projects. And it's interesting listening to some of the cost discussions. I worked on a project or with a project in the UK not too long ago, and the cost of overrunning a possession was over £1 million a day. So you don't have to overrun too many days on too many occasions to wipe out the profit you might have made. So firms are realizing the cost benefit, and just a simple 4D process where firms are taking existing models, existing schedules, and linking them together with software like Synchro are typically saving between 10 to 15% on their schedule time. And on critical projects, it's giving them the assurance that they will actually finish on time and on budget, which is really important for these high profile and critical infrastructure projects. And I'm also seeing a shift to firms doing this as business as usual. So it's less a question of, hey, what will 4D cost us? Can we afford to do 3D? Should we use cost estimating and 5D? And really, firms are now having to justify why they wouldn't do that, whereas a few years ago, they were having to make a case for doing it. So I'm seeing a real sort of shift in the industry towards people having to be told to do this and mandated to do it, to firms like BMD really just looking at this as a better way to do business. So a few really interesting things going on at the moment.
Thank you, Paul. And that is all we have time for today. So please join me once again in thanking David McLaughlin, Clinton Parker, Paul King, and Jonathan Cunningham for giving up their time and for some great presentations and sharing knowledge. I'd also like to thank Engineers Australia's industry partner, Bentley Systems, for their support. Please, as always, if you could take a couple of minutes to complete a short feedback form, which is linked in the description box below, to help us improve and plan for future sessions. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next Thought Leaders event. Thank you and good afternoon.